Good afternoon, everyone. This is Victor from NewStars Migration, and today I'd like to talk about information about the allocation, state nomination allocation, which the Department of Home Affairs reveals on their website 3 days ago, and it's definitely a very encouraging news for all those people in the past 2 years has been waiting for more chances of permanent residency nomination. We see a such increase in the allocations to state nomination figure, particularly to 190 visa. There was a lot of increase in overall, particularly for some state governments. Take Victoria, for example. This financial year, Victoria will have 9,000 places just for 190. And for New South Wales, it is also increased to more than 7,000 places. And next one I'd like to talk about is Western Australia. Western Australian governments at the end of last financial year, they already request 5,000 places from the department. At that time, most people get very shocked and they also doubt about the truth of the news, because 5,000 places is way more than what they had before. But eventually it turned out to be that is actually the figure they request to the Department of Home Affairs, and Department approve over 5,000 places to Western Australia. So the three biggest winner in this year's allocation distribution will be Victoria, Western Australia, and New South Wales. And this will give a lot of impact about the state nomination and about anyone's choices of which state to plan that migration pathway. I think at this stage what we can see is, I will talk about Victoria first. Victoria have a lot of places, particularly 190. There's 9,000 places. We never see 9,000 places being given to one state governments for 190 nomination in the past few years. And which means, and also if you compare it to the Victoria policy now, it's very easy, it's very simple. For anyone who is interested in Victoria nomination, all you have to do is just register a ROI, express of interest pretty much. And within a particular ROI, there's not much information actually required. So I think the reason why Victoria government doing that is because they have confidence about they have enough places to coordinate with the demand. So for any people who currently stay in Victoria, my suggestion is you probably were looking for Victoria, either 190 or 491 as your priority. Of course, among all those occupations, we think Victoria government on their website also saying they're going to prioritize certain occupations, such as health sectors or some health-related nursing, caring sectors. But for accounting, that's a lot of people were asking, what about accounting major? We don't know yet. They probably going to have enough places even for accounting students this financial year. We just have to wait. They do the invitation first and see what is the points of all the invitation for each occupation. But for people staying in Victoria, my suggestion this financial year, it's the best way is to stay in Victoria and see how the invitation goes. And then for the New South Wales, we know, we're also aware that it's a big increase of either 190 and 491 places. But then again, on New South Wales website, they're saying there will be occupation list. So that is something very important for NSW policy this year. We have to wait and see the occupation list first, because within the occupation list, there will be also additional requirements such as EOI, minimum EO requirement, and probably working experience requirement. For example, just give you an example. Probably, for example, occupations like software engineer, they were saying the minimum EOI requirement is 90 points, and you need to have 6 months or 12 months working experience. That's probably the case. Again, a lot of people were asking about what about the accountant. Okay, we have to see the occupation first. We all know accountants still counting quite a big percentage of the potential applicants. So either state, Victoria or New South Wales, if they make it very easy for accountants and they had to for accountant applicants, then they got to be prepared for actually intaking a lot of accounting students. I don't know if they actually and for taking accounting students not, but for the rest of occupations, I think there's quite a good chance just to stay in their state to looking for their either 180 or 491 nomination. So in the meantime, comparing to those big states, those states with the big nomination figures, we understand ACT do not have as much as increase either in 190, in 491, particular 190 nomination, and we communicate this with the ACT state government as well, and I think they realized, ACT currently is the only state still remain 30% for 190 and 70% for 491. Comparing to rest of the state, even Tasmanian, Western Australia, none of the state was actually keeping more places for 491 than 190. Most of the state was actually either 50%, 50%. Some of the state actually have much more 190 places than 491. So it's actually it's a twist of the policy now. Not the state governments. Now the state government is actually following so-called regional policy, giving more places to 491 than 190. ACT still stick to the policy. I think they understand that, and they probably need to reconsider if the policy actually was in line with the national demands at this stage, because in ACT we know there are a lot of jobs actually requiring for permanent residency to be able to apply. And if they're giving a lot of places of 491 and only taking very small percentage of 190, and those people who get nominated by ACT governments actually do not fulfill the demands of the skill markets in ACT. So that's some kind of policy probably ACT government can rethink about it, and we also giving those feedback to ACT government. As I mentioned in previous videos, there will be a review after the October financial budget. My understanding is for those big states with big nomination figures, there will be very little chance they will get extra places or much more extra places. Take Victoria for example, they already have 9,190 places. I very much suspect the department will give another 2,000 or 3,190 places to Victoria. But for ACT, we only have 800 places. If ACT government actually requiring more places, even a few hundreds more, I think the chance to get approval by the department will be higher than those states. So just make you a comparison. We have 800 places now, comparing to 600 places last financial year for 190. In the meantime, for 491, we have 1,920 places compared to 1,400 places last financial year. There was an increase, but not significantly increase as the other states. So that's something we're hoping the AC governments will also realize. They actually, the department have the capacity to coordinate with a bigger increase in nomination, particularly for the state government. Like ACT have a very stable, very transparent policy. I think the more allocation places will make the invitation more smooth. For any people who stay in ACT now, I will suggest you, since you already staying in ACT, you are generating the points for metric system. It's not necessary for you saying just to move Victoria now. I think you could wait for a bit of time and see how the program goes. We expecting that metrics points will go down as the email we're receiving from ACT government. They're suggesting just an indication, no guarantee. 491 invitation points will be likely to drop back to 65 points, and for 190, 85 points will be the indication. So if 65 and 85 actually applies, that's acceptable for a lot of people waiting for nomination. But we see how it goes, and we see after October will ACT actually getting more places from the departments. And for those, in the meantime, if your occupation is not IT, it's not accountant, but then you are looking for other possibilities, my suggestion this year, the best shot you will have is Victoria. It's very easy, pretty much. I think the precondition is very easy. So Victoria is a state you want to pay attention to. In the meantime, there's another state I want to mention too, is Western Australia. The process for Western Australia simply is you submit an express interest to Western Australia. Once you get invited, then you had to find a job offer in Western Australia. So that's about your job seeking ability. If you are confident of your job seeking ability, Western Australia, it's also a good chance. As I mentioned to you, they have over 5,000 places just for 190. So I think the governments will probably quite tolerant about the jobs you can find. So as long as you can find a job very close to the nominating occupation, the chance you get nominated is very high. So this is a general picture. I think that's, generally speaking, it's great news for anyone who are looking for permanent residency or temporary permanent residency in Australia. The place is such a big increase, either for 190 and 491, and it's increased across each of states. But for ACT, it's a minor increase. For states like Victoria, New South Wales, and Western Australia, it's a big increase. But then we're taking this as very positive gestures for the opening and for the the period of Australian migration history. We're going to a very open eras. Australian government is ready to take in more immigrants because that's just how the society, everyone is looking for. We need skilled workers, but then this is a very good indication along with each state government's policy. So the big direction is the Australian is getting more places and there are much more chances for nominated. But then when you're comparing to the nomination figures, you have to see your own state government's policy. Some of the state government policy might limit you for certain kind of choices, might limit you for choosing 190, and might give you some kind of requirements such as working experience or other criteria. So you have to fulfill that. In the meantime, do not just stick to your own state. I think as I mentioned, those 3 big states with bigger allocation places might will give you a chance. For people staying in ACT, there's one magical places, and pretty much more all of you already aware, that is Queanbeyan. I know a lot of people stay in Queanbeyan for the purpose of waiting for ACT nomination and New South Wales nomination at the same time. This year, NSW nomination is asking you to stay 3 months if you're looking for 491 nomination, stay for 6 months if you're looking for 190 nomination. Of course, there are additional requirements. So if you're staying in Queanbeyan, really much you should pay attention to NSW 491 and NSW 190 policy. But generally speaking, I think this is a great year for everybody. And for any people still following the metrics in Canberra nomination, I think that's all we have to do is just getting more points and hopefully hoping the points will drop, which the government is doing. I think you still got a chance to be nominated. I'm confident about the stability and transparency of ACT metrics. Okay, so yep, that's all I want to share today, and we after a few invitation rounds, I will share with you the invitation trend and the invitation of ACT metrics this financial year, because we only have 3 invitation rounds. Once it reaches about 5 to 8 invitation rounds, I will do a summarize about my prediction of the points. Thank you very much for watching the video this afternoon. Thank you.